Chapter 18. Violet stared at her screen, eyes narrowed, a cup of lukewarm tea forgotten beside her. She'd been sifting through the code repositories for hours now, hopping between more than 50 new The Penguin Games branches, her brow creasing deeper with each discovery. She'd expected the forks to veer off in slightly different directions. After all, that was the beauty of open source. But this? It was a lot. One security firm out of Rhode Island was making an app to chase the geese off their rich clients' lawns. Someone up in Montana is naming buffalo. Even Garrett's and Alice's branches were moving faster than she'd anticipated, the forks pulsing with new algorithms and unfamiliar subroutines she hadn't seen before. Scrolling through Garrett's project, GH-KH, Violet spotted a new layer of code, labeled innocuously as Object Avoidance Protocol 2. But as she dug in, her suspicions flared. This wasn't any object avoidance code. It was sophisticated, far beyond the standard navigation algorithms for keeping drones from colliding with trees or fences. Violet's fingers hovered over the trackpad, her pulse quickening. Garrett had somehow worked in algorithms that could maneuver drones dynamically, shifting altitude and trajectory in real time as if anticipating obstacles before they even entered the drone's path. Steering and maneuvering, she muttered to herself, biting her nail as she read line after line of code. But something felt off. This wasn't purely about avoidance. It seemed almost predatory, the way it tracked and honed in on moving targets with precise adjustments. Violet's gaze drifted to the time on her screen. Midnight. She couldn't shake the feeling that the project was slipping beyond her control, veering off into territory she hadn't envisioned. With a resigned sigh, she opened her contacts and sent a quick message to Stella. Violet, you up? Found something strange in the code, need a second opinion. The response came moments later, almost as if Stella had been waiting. Stella, always. Call? In minutes, Stella's face appeared on the screen, her silver curls haloed in the soft light of her home office. She looked calm and composed, a contrast to Violet's edgy demeanor. All right, what am I looking at? Stella asked, adjusting her glasses as Violet shared her screen. Violet took a breath, gesturing to the lines of code she'd highlighted. This is in Garrett's fork. Look here, Object Avoidance Protocol 2. It's not standard. I think he's borrowed from automotive AI, algorithms that are typically used for self-driving cars to maneuver around obstacles. Stella leaned in, eyes scanning the screen, a slight frown forming. Interesting. Seems harmless enough. If anything, it's meant to keep the drone safer. Maybe he's just trying to keep the kangaroos and crops protected. Violet's lips pressed together, a skeptical look crossing her face. That's what I thought at first. But the way it's written, it doesn't seem like it's just avoiding. The pattern here, it almost looks like it's steering toward certain objects, narrowing in on them. I've seen this type of logic in other projects, but it's usually applied for, well, let's just say it's not for harmless wildlife monitoring. Stella arched an eyebrow, meeting Violet's gaze. You think he's programmed the drones to chase? Violet nodded, biting her lip. I do. I mean, look at these adjustments. If the object moves left, the drone veers to intercept. If it speeds up, so does the drone. This isn't just avoidance. It's an active pursuit. Stella leaned back, tapping her fingers thoughtfully on the edge of her desk. Let's play devil's advocate. Maybe Garrett's trying to keep his drones close to the target to deter them more effectively. There is still a distance rule keeping them a meter from any object. Violet felt a surge of frustration but held it back, choosing her words carefully. Stella, this doesn't feel like deterrence. It feels like escalation. If we're using car algorithms to maneuver, we're pushing these drones into an active role, no longer just monitoring, but directly engaging. And if these algorithms are off, well, what's stopping one of those drones from mistaking a human for a target? Stella sighed, brushing a stray curl from her face. Look, I see where you're coming from. We can send a note over and ask. He probably didn't intend for the code to track and escalate at the degree it's reading to us. Violet's gaze didn't waver. Maybe, but it's not just Garrett. She switched tabs, pulling up Alice's fork, scrolling quickly to the section tagged Repeat Offender Detection 2. Alice's code here, she's merged in the algorithms to track and respond differently to repeat offenders. Stella let out a slow breath, her expression turning serious. Okay, but let's not raise alarm bells yet. They're experimenting. We knew that was part of the deal when we made the code open source. Violet nodded, though the uneasy feeling in her stomach didn't fade. I don't want to see this tech spiraling into something we can't control. What happens if these repeat offenders aren't just crows or kangaroos? Stella gave a reassuring smile. We'll handle it, Violet. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, but I'll keep my eye on it too. The screen dimmed as Stella signed off, but Violet stayed, staring at the lines of code dancing before her. She knew Stella was trying to keep her calm, to reassure her. But as she returned to Garrett's repository and traced through the lines of pursuit logic once more, a chill ran down her spine. The feeling that she was missing something big, only grew stronger.